Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? Today we got a great speaker for you guys. Nick Davis is going to be talking a little bit about his business, Reclaim Your Premium, which is kind of a health insurance. We're going to give a lot of information for you guys. But as always, you guys have me here today, Joshua Thompson at Thompson Tax Group, where we handle your tax planning needs, your accounting needs as well. And we also have here today the legendary Chris Jackson. Chris, you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I'm Chris Jackson with Cambridge Financial Group, and I specialize in life and disability insurance. I help families and businesses protect what matters most, which is their own life, making sure that their families are taken care of regardless of what may happen. So, with us today, we have Nick, who is a complimentary business owner working with health insurance. So, Nick, do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, man. So I guess my name is Nick or Nicholas. It entirely depends on how much trouble I'm in at the moment. And I've got a phenomenal saying for you guys. Reclaim your premium. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Woo!
Man, you guys are awesome, dude.
I love it. Well, Nick, appreciate you guys, or appreciate you being here with us today. I kind of just want to start off like, what made you want to go into this type of business?
Well, that is a relatively loaded question, but I am happy to answer that for fun. Yeah, so check this action out, right? So here I am doing my thing, right? I was doing engineering work previously, and I had made it in my particular position so far that it was so niche, right? So when I had gotten laid off from my engineering company, it was kind of tricky to find a job, right? And so here I am, kind of just racking my brain basically over what do I do, right? And like what's my next move going to be? And as I'm reviewing all of the resumes, applications, everything like that, I put out like 630 plus resumes, applications, and I got like every answer under the sun, like why somebody did not need my specific assistance. And as I'm reviewing those, I'm looking at my Cobra documents that I gotten from my job and reading those, and I'm like, man, this stuff is really expensive. Like there's like I was like, I wrote an SOP on how to measure the stretch of material using light waves, and this is like boggling my mind right now. Like, so this shouldn't be a thing. And so I just not really thinking about it too much, and then it hit me kind of like a ton of bricks, and I'm like, well, wait a tick. If I'm having trouble understanding this, I'm sure somebody else is having trouble understanding this, right? So I was like, all right, well, let me just think about it, right? So I did a root cause analysis, which is basically asking why until I can't ask why anymore. And I took every career that I've ever done and kind of just boiled it down, right? And like, what do I like to do? So I mean, I've done a lot of different things. I've been a professional dance instructor. I've danced with people from every continent on the planet, with the exception of Antarctica, which is kind of fun.
That's awesome.
Done professional musician. I've been gigs, tours, shows, albums, record labels, whole nine yards. That was lots of fun. Skate shops, bicycle shops, inline skate shops, brought them from teeny tiny shops to like international recognition. I've been a biomechanist as well, so straightening skeletal structures, making sure everything's nice and good to go, right? And then put all that together, and then put in a little bit of applied physics and a little bit of metallurgy, and became a master fitter for bicycles. And so measuring people's skeletal structures for bicycles, most efficient power per pedal stroke, so on and so forth. And so from there, I ended up going into engineering, and basically in 5.5 years, I went from the guy just taking notes about what people were saying because I couldn't understand their vocabulary very much, to essentially almost running the largest oil and gas testing facility in the entire United States, and then becoming an authority in the Western Hemisphere of the planet for certain things that I was the only person allowed to do. And then, kind of finishing off with a joint interest project with like 20 different countries and writing an SOP on how to measure the stretch of material using light waves. And so I was like, okay, well, these are all very diverse careers. So what's the same in all of them? And the same thing is I like to help people, right? But I
Right.
can't be like, I want to help people, because like everybody wants to help people, right? So I was like, what's my specialty going to be? And then it was like staring me right in front of my face as I was holding the Cobra document. I'm like, right. So yeah, then went ahead and get licensed, certified, appointed, so on and so forth. You guys know the drill. And here I am making the complex less complex, basically.
Well, we're glad to have you, man. We're glad to have you. I mean, let's just start off with the elephant of the room. Why should we have health insurance?
Man, health insurance. Okay. So check this out. So most of the people listening to this probably have a car, right? and you would have car insurance on that car. Well, you'd have car insurance, not so you can get your oil changed. You have car insurance if stuff gets real, right? And you have varying levels of that car insurance. Oh, I'm going to protect just my car, or I'm going to protect the car and the car that I might potentially hit, or that tree I might potentially knock over, right? And so you have very different levels of that, right? Well, it's the same thing with health insurance, right? As far as the analogy is served, because you don't get health insurance to go to the doctor. That's silly. There's really honestly no reason. You get health insurance if stuff gets real. You know what I mean? Like if you, like, for example, prime example, one of my really, really, really great friends, probably one of the fittest dudes I know, like legit, honestly. The guy like literally wakes up and runs 13 miles for fun, like who does that, right? And then rides his bike, 20 or 30 miles after that, So yeah, he woke up one day and he was like, oh man, my chest hurts, but I'm not really kind of like whatever. So I'm just going to go do it anyway. Right.
Right.
And so if over a course of like 2 or 3 days, he's like, my chest hurts. The only reason he even went to the doctor is because he was looking at his Garmin and is like, oh, hey, my heart rate is up like 1 beat per minute. This doesn't seem right. Legit. And he goes to the doctor and he's like, doc, something's up, man. My heart rate's a little funny. And my chest hurts a little bit, but I don't know, maybe it's a cold or something like that. And the doctor looks at him and he's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. And he was like, what?
Wow.
Like that, it goes from honky dory to like, S just got real, like real quick.
Yeah.
Had he not had health insurance, he would be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, which is a big, big deal, right? And so you never know when something's going to happen. I had there's another client of ours that was 35. His doctor was like, hey, I'm the pinnacle of health, right? And literally the doctor was like, look, bro, you are literally the poster child for perfect blood pressure. I'm pretty excited about that, right?
Right.
He had just changed over his coverage from a Christian Healthcare Ministries plan, which is not insurance, it's a reimbursement plan, right? So it takes his medical bills, sometimes 3 and 4 weeks, almost even a month or two to get approved and so on and so forth, if they're going to do that, right? And so he had switched over to a suitcase style plan about 6 months before this particular incident. And so he stood up one morning, just to regularly get out of bed. You stand up, right? So he gets out of bed, stands up, falls over face flat. And he was like, he doesn't remember very much of it, but his wife dragged him to the ER after that. And they were like, what's going on? And when he came to, the doctor, he was like, doc, what happened? Like, what's up? The doctor's like, you had a brain bleed. And he's like, hold on, what? He's like, is that hereditary? And he's like, no, it's 100% spontaneous. It could happen to literally anybody at any time. There's no explaining it whatsoever. And he's like, well, I'm a really fit guy. And he's like, I know. It just is 100% random. And so that guy, he called us and he was like, dude, I just want to say thank you. And they're like, well, really, what for? And he's like, well, because of this brain bleed procedure, this procedure was $397,000 for me. And the insurance paid it all, less my deductible. And I couldn't, he's like, and that right there, I mean, had I been on a reimbursement style plan, that would have crippled me financially for God knows how many years. Right. Yep. So I just can't express my thanks enough for you guys. I was like, wow. So reasons like that are why you need health insurance, because we can't tell the future. If we could, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. I can guarantee you.
Exactly. Wow. That's a powerful story, and definitely something everyone needs to hear. That's crazy. I mean, you have insurance on your car, you have your life insurance, you have your personal property insurance, your renter's insurance, your home insurance. But what happens to the one person all that insurance is there for? Something happens to you, you want to keep yourself okay and healthy. Just like, I'm sure like Chris and maybe like you as well, we have a family we want to take care of. We're not healthy. How are we supposed to take care of that family? That's a huge. Well, we know a little bit more about health insurance, but let's kind of get back into it. I'm a numbers guy. I love numbers. Why is it so expensive? Like, can you maybe enlighten us a little bit more on why health insurance is the cost it is today?
Yeah, for sure, man. So there's a lot of different ways to answer that one. Usually when I get asked, they're like, why is my health insurance so expensive? They're like freaking out. That's usually because they're going from a W-2 type position where they're an employee of somebody, and now they're running their own business, for example, as a solopreneur, and they're like, sweet baby Jesus, this stuff is ridiculously expensive. Why? And so basically, here's the deal. Like in the US, if you're a member of a company that's 50 people or bigger and that employer offers you health insurance, they're legally obligated to pay for half of that health insurance premium, which is a big, big deal, right? So long story short, when I was at my engineering company, for me and my triplets, it was maybe $600 or so a month, give or take, approximately, right? And that was with my company, my previous company paying half and me paying half. I didn't know I was paying half. It doesn't dawn on most people because you're just like, oh, that's just what it costs. It sucks it went up this year, but I mean, it is what it is, But really, we're only paying half of that stuff. And so it's always been like decently expensive, but nobody else is paying the other half when you're paying it by yourself, if that makes sense, right? So there's that. And then also tiny segue into Cobra just for fun. Like if anybody listening is on Cobra or has Cobra or is thinking about Cobra or anything like that, Cobra starts at a 102% markup, right? So when you get your Cobra packet 30 days from when you're leaving the company, essentially, and they're going to wait 30 days because let's face it, you're not important to them anymore, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? So it's going to be your part plus their part plus a minimum 2% stitching fee, give or take, right? And so it starts at a 102% markup from what you were previously paying, which is a big, big deal, right? So yeah, and long and short of it, that's kind of that. A little bit of a deeper answer is, there's people that walk on medical bills and so on and so forth. And then, the national claims average raises because more people are making more claims at more times and so on and so forth. And so if you have plans that are rooted, towards more of a public structure, then they have the potential to, go up maybe in the middle of the year, for example, right? Whereas if you have plans that are not so much in the public structure, then they're not really subject to that, if that makes sense. They're out of the wave pool, so to speak.
Yeah, makes complete sense. And I feel like I could kind of compare that to other things in our life. It seems like, you either have fixed mortgage or you have a variable mortgage, or for instance, on the expense side of things, sounds like a lot like self-employment tax. You don't realize it when you're a W-2 employee, you pay half of it, but once you become you don't open your own business, you're like, why am I paying so much in taxes? Good morning, self-employment tax. So that's a big thing into it. To understand things a lot more, sometimes you just got to compare it to other things as well. I'm a big believer in that.
100%.
But so the next thing I wanted to ask, there's what HMO, there's PPO, there's elemental GO, there's all these OOOs. Can you explain a little bit or enlighten us some more on what's the difference? Why does it matter? I've never even heard of EPO, to be honest.
Dude, I know. Literally, when I was learning all that stuff, I was like, elemental PO. Literally, I said the same thing, and I was like, that's why I laughed. I was like, that's really funny. All right. So let's see here. So we'll go from the top down to the bottom, right? So PPO is preferred provider organization, right? That means you go to any hospital, any doctor, and the kind of the US, you get to pick as long as it's in the network, right? If it's not in the network, you just have a different fee associated with that and you're good to go, right? And HMO is a health maintenance organization. And those particular organizations, the network is a lot smaller than the PPO. And then the EPO is an exclusive provider organization, and the EPOs are even smaller than the HMOs, right? So a fun analogy is, let's say here, we're gonna do a neighborhood analogy, right? So following the analogy, your EPO would be basically all of your hospitals, doctors, and everything like that. It has to be inside your house, right? You go across the street, you're out of network, right? And you have to get a referral to go see the house across the street, right? HMOs are a lot different, right? HMOs are going to say, okay, great. Well, this side of the neighborhood is your network. The other side of the neighborhood, you're going to need a referral to go over to the other side of the neighborhood, but you're going to be good to go, right? Well, what happens on an EPO or an HMO if you leave the neighborhood? Well, your coverage doesn't work anymore, right? And so that's a big pain in the butt. What happens if you have a PPO using the exact same model? Well, on a PPO, you can go to anybody's house you want to at any point in time, and you can also leave the neighborhood and go to somebody else's house for fun, right? So putting that in a state analogy and in a national analogy, HMOs and EPOs are state locked. So they're not really going to work outside of your state by any means, right? So that's kind of a pain in the butt. They work in like emergency type situations just to kind of like stabilize you and get you where you need to go. But I mean, you bet your bottom dollar they're going to charge you a whole bunch of money for that because you're not in the state that it's responsible for. If that makes sense, right? So your PPO is going to give you more freedom to choose, and then also, I mean, it's just like there's so many layers. It's like an onion, right?
Yeah.
So PPO, big parts about PPOs. PPOs are they put the care in the doctor's hands, which is really important. I mean, that's what these dudes went to school for. Like, to be honest with you, you know what I mean? HMOs and EPOs put the care in the insurance company's hands, which is a big deal, right? And so, like, you essentially have, one of my colleagues put it pretty well earlier today. We were talking about it, and he goes, okay, so basically, he's like, the easiest way to put it is you have, your basically your child, like your dying child in your hands, and you're on a PPO, and you say, doc, do whatever you can to keep my little one alive, right? Whereas if you're an HMO or an EPO, you're gonna go, all right, doc, do the most minimally invasive procedure possible. That's the most cost effective, that has the technical percentage of living, but also protects your bottom line. Please, can you do that? Oh, and I hope they live. Like, honestly, I mean, that's a really terrible example, but I mean, it's very blunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Opens eyes.
Because I've seen doctors walk away from HMOs and EPO networks because they were like, I didn't spend 8 years in medical school to be told what I cannot do. You know what I mean? So PPOs offer ultimate freedom, so you can get done what you need to get done when you need to get done, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I would love to kind of dive deeper into that, one day in a later episode. You guys stay around, because one day we're going to dive a little bit more into it. We're going to talk more about it, because I'm sure, like you said, it's peeling the onion. That was probably just the first layer. I'm ready to get into it. Hopefully it doesn't make us cry, but we're ready to get into it,
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
You guys are rad.
I know another question I had is, as a business owner, what should we think of when we're getting ready to get health insurance, or we're leaving this W-2 job, we're going to go in the business full time, we're losing our health insurance? What's something we need to keep in mind? Who should we talk to? Where should we go? If you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So solopreneurs, entrepreneurs leaving their businesses. I mean, heck, even small businesses starting a new small business, you know what I mean? Startups and so on and so forth. Health insurance is so important, right? And the thing is things to note, right? When you leave your W-2 position and you go 1099 and you're on your own getting your own health insurance, right? Most states of the union don't even offer PPO coverage on their marketplace, which is crazy, right? It's actually bananas, right? Anyway, good times. So, that's really important, because you're like, how do I get PPO coverage, right? There are a lot of different things to consider out there, but fun fact, not all of them always apply to you. So, your choices could be a little less than what you think they are. So it might make it a little less complex, which is great, right? Overall, connecting with an advisor such as myself would be fantastic, to be honest with you. And the reason why is because the easiest way to put this is the average person, or a civilian, so to speak, would have access to, if I had to approximate, I would say approximately maybe half of what's available for you out there, right? And then if you consider, talking to an advisor, that number is going to dramatically increase to 100%, as you'll have access and accessibility to that, right? Prime example, there are short-term PPOs out there, right? And short-term PPOs in general, I mean, it's kind of ish, you know what I mean? When I learned about them, I was like, oh, that's legal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's, you end up on a PPO, for example, that will actually end up combing through your medical records to find any reason they can whatsoever to deny your claim and kick you off the coverage immediately. Like, that's not cool, you know what I mean? So, but as an average person, you wouldn't know that going into it, you know what I mean? And so connecting to an advisor does two things, right? It gives you access to more than you thought you had possible. And two, it connects you with somebody who has seen the pitfalls and who technically has the X-ray goggles to make sure that you're not walking into something that you might potentially regret.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Did that answer your question okay?
Yeah, that was spot on. I think it's always important to talk to a professional, whether it be legal, tax, life insurance, finances, whatever it may be, because at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And if you just go into something without being educated or talking with the professional, you have no idea what you have. And that's the worst situation you want to be in. The last time you want to find out your health insurance will cover this or you're not covered in this area is when you actually need it. So call someone, get the information, because 99% of the time, I'll say 90% of the time, the information is completely free to at least get. And then you can decide if you want to move forward or not. So I encourage anyone to always give a call, ask questions, learn something new, because you don't know. You really don't know what you don't know.
100%, man.
Yeah.
So, hey, well, we have to wrap up time-wise, but I appreciate you so much coming today, Nick. And there's so much information about health insurance that I think just people just don't know. And I think you're a great resource, and you seem to have like that. This the fun personality to really make it interesting, right? Health insurance is not something most people think is interesting. I try to do the same thing with life insurance, and taxes. Honestly, all three of us are really
right.
We're going, hey, come go to Disneyland. It's
Yeah.
a lot more obvious how fun it is. But just to close, if you can leave just one last final thought with us, take maybe 30, 45 seconds to share final thoughts. If there's someone that's looking at health insurance right now and they're just lost in the plethora of information, maybe share some insights of what got you to do what you're doing now and how they can get started.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, in the realms of, starting to be your own advisor, you could definitely do that. Do a little bit more research of that, should you like to. And I'm always available to contact for that. Right now is a big time in health insurance because open enrollment is starting November 1st through December 15th. Biden actually increased it to January 15th for certain states. So double check your states for those particular regulations. And then also remember to, as you're looking for your health insurance, just because it's a PPO does not mean it's more expensive than an HMO or an EPO, because in group plans, like we're all used to working for companies and stuff like that, most of the time they'll structure it as the PPO being more expensive than the HMO, right? However, it's not always the case, because I have found several PPO plans to be about, maybe 30 to 40% less than what you're going to find in the marketplace, which is a big deal. So that's just a further encouragement to reach out to an advisor. Calendly.com/reclaim your premium or #reclaim your premium and get a hold of me. And thank you again, Christopher, and Joshua for having me on, man. This is super, super cool, dude.
Yeah, of course. And we know we just like to give information out. We love you're willing to come on and just give some information. I know I'll definitely be reaching out to you as we talk a little bit off the camera, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more. But other than that, appreciate you guys joining us today. Stay around because we'll be coming out with a lot more information, just kind of give you guys some information. Any last minute words, Chris, you want to add?
No, thanks, guys. Appreciate your knowledge.
You guys are so rad, man. Thanks again.
Of course.
Yeah.